In this screencast, I'm going to talk to you about the program Audacity, a program which can be used to create podcasts, record speeches, basically capture student learning in any subject via the audio format. First thing I'd like to do is take you through how to record tracks. You could record a single audio track or multiple tracks using these major buttons at the top. You've got your standard back, play, record, pause, stop, and forward. And if I simply hit the record button, this is the first audio track I'm going to start recording just for my test podcast. I hit stop, I automatically have track number 1. Now, if I'm looking to record a second audio track, one of the things I need to do before I hit record is I want to click on the mute button right here. If I don't do that, as soon as I hit record, it's going to start playing track number 1 over top of my new track. So I'm going to hit mute, and I'll hit record once again. This is my second test track for my Audacity demonstration. Just a quick recording, and I will mute that as well, and I might as well just make a third. And this is track number 3, the final audio track that I will record for my podcast demonstration. I now have 3 audio tracks that are recorded. Now, if I want to hear just one of these tracks without the other 2 playing over top of them, it's important to hit mute if I am recording new tracks, but if I want to just play a track, I can simply hit the solo button. So let's say track number 2 is one that I want to hear. All I do is hit solo and then hit play. This is my second test track for my Audacity demonstration. And you will notice that it just played track number 2. So again, if I'm recording new tracks, I want to make sure that I click on mute. If after I record them, I just want to listen to one of them, I can click on solo within that track. Once you start recording multiple tracks, you will likely want to start naming them just to make them easier to remember which one is which. To do that, up here, this little drop-down menu that says audio track, I click on that, and that will allow me to name it. I just click on name, and I can come over here and call this track number 1. Now let's say you have multiple students recording theirs, and you are trying to track which student is on which track. You can just simply put in student names here as well to figure out who is who. So I click OK. Automatically this one is track number 1. I can do the same for the second audio track. I can call that track number 2, and you get the idea how that works. Now, sometimes when you are recording these audio tracks for a podcast or just recording speeches, you might want to change the order. So let's say, for example, this third track here is something that I want to have up here. I can change that order by clicking the same drop-down menu that says audio track, and I can click move the track up. That has now moved it up 1, and then I can just move it up 1 more time, and I have now moved that 2 places up. There's actually a quicker trick to doing that. I could simply just click over here, click and drag, and I can just drop it back down. So 2 different ways to move your audio tracks around. Adjusting the volume is something that you probably want to play around with. There are some times that when you listen to it, somebody's voice might be louder than another's. You might want to mix in music and adjust volume. So let's say track number 1, it's not quite as loud as I was hoping. I'm looking for it to be a little louder. I just come over here to the sliding tool that has the minus and the plus sign, and I click and I drag that along the sliding tool. I can make it louder. I can go backwards and make it quieter. And now I can try playing that, and I just want to hit solo on track number 1. And that's actually a good lesson right now. As I'm hitting play, nothing is happening. If that ever happens to you, it doesn't mean that anything is broken. It just means that you have to hit stop. Somewhere along the line, you have to hit stop and then go back to the beginning. This is the first audio track I'm going to start recording just for my test podcast. So you will notice that sometimes I notice that students get stuck and they think that their machine is broken, and I just recommend hit stop and back, make sure that it goes back to 0 seconds, and then it should clear up whatever the issue is. So I now have 3 audio tracks recorded, but if I start hitting play, it will become a disaster. This is the first audio track I'm going to start recording just for my test. All three audio tracks are playing over top of one another, so we need to adjust these, and we have to work with the alignment. To do that, up here, this double arrow is called a time shift tool. When you click on the time shift tool, that allows you to move your tracks around. So I can go to track number 2, click and slide that along, and I can move that and align it, and I can go down to track number 3 and line that up as well. You will notice that I'm not lining it up where the shaded part matches up. I'm going by my sound waves, and I'm just trying to align those up. So one ends here, and the next one will begin approximately 1 second later. If these sound waves are a little bit too small and it's a little tricky for you to see what's happening, you just go up here and you magnify it. You can magnify those and make them a little bit bigger. Once you're finished with your time selection tool, it's very important to, or pardon me, your time shift tool, it's important to go back up here and click on selection tool once more. That will allow you to capture the functionality of the program, and it won't mess anything up, and you won't accidentally start sliding your sound waves around as well. Once you do that, it's probably a good idea to save your work. Just to show you how to do that, you go up to File, Save Project As, and when you do that, it should give you some options. And mine is not allowing me to do that right now. So let's try. Oh, there we go. Now it's coming up. So mine by default is set to downloads. If I would rather save mine on my desktop or in my documents, or if I want to go to my OneDrive, I just find that within my computer. And it's always a good idea when you are saving something on your computer, make sure you know which folder you are saving it into. So if I was to hit save right now, I would give it a file name, and I would save it to my downloads, which is what it's at. I'm certainly okay with that. I could create a separate folder that says test podcasts, and I could pop that in there. I'm just going to cancel out of that for right now, and I'd like to show you how to import royalty-free music. Now, royalty-free music is something that's very important, because if you are embedding music within your podcast, you want to make sure that you have rights to that music. So a couple of sites to get you started here. I've got Purple Planet Music. There is the link right there in my URL, purpleplanet.com. That gives you a large number of music samples according to genre and mood. I just discovered this one while surfing around the internet last week. I'm quite happy with it. Another one that I've been using for some time is Kevin MacLeod's site, incompetech.com. There is the link up there in my URL bar. You would simply go to royalty-free music, click on that. You could do a full search, and that will bring you to a lot of music that he has graciously allowed us to use. Now we are ready to start importing music into our podcast. To do that, I go up to my project button, and if I click Project, Import Audio, that will bring me to a selection of music that I have already downloaded to my computer. It is in my download section. Again, always important to know where you are saving files. And I could click on doobly-doo, a royalty-free selection that's already saved, and that will import into my podcast. At least it should. There we go. And just a few seconds delay. That is 3 minutes worth of music that I do not need, so I can click and drag that and get rid of some of that. Now, I don't want all of that. I want to make sure that I'm not accidentally deleting any of my audio as well, but I'm going to show you a trick to fix that even if you do. Now I have approximately 10 seconds worth of music, and if I hit play, the music will start immediately, but if I shade it, if I click and drag the first few seconds, maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then I go to Effect, Fade In, you will notice that that fades in my music. So just a little bit of a more gentler approach to listening instead of the music just blasting out in your ears right away. And I'm going to move that track up to the top so it's easier to align it. I can magnify that, make sure it's aligned the way I would like it to be. Everything looks good. So I have music at the beginning, and let's maybe test that out and hear what it sounds like. Sounds okay. So I have music as my intro, 3 audio tracks, and if I go back to Project, Import Audio, I can now choose a different song. I'm going to pick Funnin' and Sunnin'. Double click on that. That should import. Usually takes 5 to 10 seconds for an audio track to import if it's music. Anytime now, that should pop in. And there we go. There is Funnin' and Sunnin'. Once again, I have a lot of music that I'm not going to need. I can highlight that and hit backspace. Use my time shift tool. Move that over. I can line that up. Highlight the first couple of seconds of that track. Go up to Effect. Hit Fade In. And at the very end, you'll notice that the music just ends abruptly. I can shade in or highlight. I'll highlight the last couple of seconds, go to Effect, and hit Fade Out. Now, it'll just gradually finish. So I have my introductory music, audio track 1, 2, and 3, and then my final closing piece of music. I make sure that I hit Stop and go back. And if I hit play, this is the first audio track I'm going to start recording just for my test podcast. This is my second test track for my Audacity demonstration, and this is track number 3, final audio track that I will record for my podcast demonstration. And that's the idea of how you can put music into a podcast, record multiple tracks. If you're not happy with the way that those are aligned, once again, you can just go to the time shift tool. And for example, if track number 1 was a little bit too late coming in, I can move that over and I can move everything else up accordingly. And then I could go to File and I could hit File, Save, Project As, and I could save that to my computer. Once that is saved, you can still go back in and record edits to this podcast. You're just saving the Audacity file. If you want to save it as an MP3 file, you would go File, Export as MP3. And when you do that, it gives you your finished MP3 file, which can be embedded into a website as a podcast that can be listened to by anybody who has the link to your website. That is not able to be changed, or you're not able to make edits to a finished MP3 file. So it's always a good idea to save it as an Audacity file by hitting Save Project As and Export as MP3 once you finish that. One final thing before I'm finished. If at any point you make a mistake, rather than deleting your work and starting all over, you can simply, well, let's just say, for example, you accidentally delete part of an audio track. And so let's say I accidentally shade that in and delete it. It doesn't mean that I have to re-record. I just go up here to my undo button, the arrow right here that says undo, and I click that and it automatically puts back the work that I have deleted. So no need to panic. And that's it. I hope that that's helpful. That's a basic introduction to Audacity. Hopefully this helps. Wonderful program to use with students. Good luck. Thanks for listening.